You're watching the very first Dragon's Dogma podcast. As far as we know.
Come on, it's gonna be awesome!
Hi, my name is Melvo, and this is an interview/podcast with Austin Shelton, also known as LDK Super Dante on Nexus Mods. He's the solo developer behind Project Dragonforged, a massive overhaul mod currently in the works for Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. In the next hour or so, we're diving into Austin's world, what the overhaul is, what it adds, how he builds it, when you might actually get your hands on it, and most importantly, what help he still needs to finish it faster. In this whole conversation, Austin is a beautiful hurricane, and I did my best to be the grounded fixer, the medium, gently steering things toward the vision I had in mind for this video. This one was a behemoth to make. It took me 4 absolutely agonizing months to get it right, and it's easily the hardest project I've ever finished. But I wanted to do it justice, and I wanted it to live on YouTube for anyone interested in modding, passion projects, or Dragon's Dogma for years to come. The best reward for me would be someone watching this and getting inspired to create something of their own for the community, just like Austin does. His positivity and relentless energy inspired me, and I hope it inspires you too. Please enjoy. But first, every podcast needs a jingle. It's 2025, we're following the trends. It seems like every other guy on the internet tends to start their own podcast. We're quality not so great, we're following this trend, but it seems like we're a little bit too late. Alright, here we go. This is our first attempt at doing something in the Dragon's Dogma space that kinda resembles a podcast, so try to be supportive, okay? I'm Melvo. And this, we actually don't have a name for it yet. I do think it'd be a missed opportunity not to call it Pornhub, but I don't know. Feel free to drop your name suggestions in the comments, but just know that if this ends up being called like the Porncast or something equally boring, and then, you know, someone else swoops in and steals Pornhub for their own Dragon's Dogma podcast on YouTube, just remember it was my idea from the start. Today I have Austin Shelton here with me, the mind behind Project Dragonforged. It's a very ambitious and massive upcoming overhaul mod for Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, and we'll be talking about it in the video. Austin, hi, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. Nice to talk to everybody. How's it going?
Not too bad. Do you have a drink with you? I do have a drink.
I did, but I finished it.
Damn it. By the way, you are a Dark Souls Knight, and I'm wearing you can't see it, but I have a Praise the Sun t-shirt, naturally, because we're going to be talking about Dragon's Dogma. Could you start by introducing yourself to the viewer/listener?
Yeah, so as you might have heard before, I am Austin Shelton. I might be better known in some places as LDK Super Dante. That's my usual screen name. I am the author of Dragon's Dogma Remastered, as well as my most recent project, Project Dragonforged.
Awesome, thank you very much. So before we start, obviously drop a like and subscribe to this channel, to Austin's channel too. Lots of Dragon's Dogma content. All the links will be in the description. So I cut this whole thing in 3 segments. The first one will be called Meet the Modder. The second one will be a deep dive. We'll be talking about the project exclusively. And the third one, we'll go through some of the comments, because I made a post on Reddit asking people to, you know, submit their questions about Project Dragonforged for this very interview, and honestly a lot of them don't really know what it is. They don't understand what it does. So can you give us a quick, maybe 30-second to 1-minute elevator pitch? What is Project Dragonforged?
Yeah, I can do that. So, and I guess that's kind of the consequence of my teasers intentionally being a little bit cryptic. So, Project Dragonforged is just this big project. It started off pretty small, where I just added a couple of new enemy placements. The original idea was to just add a few things that underuse, so I feel like the world needed more griffins and hydras, and I just kept figuring out more and more I could do from there. I'm like, oh, I can adjust enemy stats. Oh, I can add new stages. Oh, I just figured out how to add new equipment. Like, it just kept going, and so it's essentially this really giant project that adds a ton of new playable content. Just lets you experience a ton of new stuff in Dragon's Dogma, and that's the nutshell of it. That's the gist of it.
Well, I kind of agree. I think one of the reasons it's really hard to tell what it actually is and what it does, it is really cryptic. It has like a shit ton of Easter eggs and different little clues. So you just confirmed that it was intentional, yeah? Like you said So we had a quick 4 hours long prep call before this, just to figure out the structure and everything. And you did say that was kind of intentional because you really want people to go in blind. So can you comment on that for a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I do like the idea of people going in blind, like they're experiencing a whole other game / DLC. Although at the very end of that teaser, spoiler if you haven't watched it yet, blah blah blah, there's a big Dark Souls reveal. That was like the most upfront, in your face, like holy shit. And that was kind of done intentionally. I actually originally wasn't going to show that off, but so many people were like thought the project was smaller than it was. I'm like, I'm gonna do a mic drop here. So
well, it was a mic drop, but it confused a lot of people too. We'll talk about it later, actually, because it's very interesting.
Okay.
Before we do so, let's just rewind a bit. And, before the teasers, the Project Dragonforged, let's just talk about you and your roots with the series and modding in general. What version of Dragon's Dogma did you play first?
My very, very first experience with Dragon's Dogma was in Dark Arisen. I got it for my birthday shortly after Dark Arisen came out, November 24th, 2013. Mm-hmm. And it was on my PlayStation 3. And I just immediately fell in love with the game. Went to Bitterblack Isle at level 3. Did not leave until 2018. I wanted to get it on PC to start modding it, and I was like, I should probably play the rest of the game finally.
Was there like a moment that made you go like, I want to mod this thing?
I do, and it wasn't like a or anything like that. I just remember I was sitting there, I was playing, I was like, man, I love this game. And I know these games on PC, like Dark Souls and Skyrim and stuff, they have really cool mods. Mm-hmm. I bet there's a bunch of stuff for Dragon's Dogma. So I'm going to get it on PC and check it all out. And there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, you had some retextures, you had some E and Bs, you had a couple of like model swaps and stuff like that. And then the biggest mod at the time that wasn't just like a mod compilation or something like that was like world difficulty. And a lot of people have actually asked about if I'm doing it like world difficulty, but I am doing something pretty different. But we can talk about that later.
What was your first mod for Dark Arisen? Like the first mod that you actually made and uploaded on Nexus?
That one was pretty basic. The first one I ever uploaded was just it was called the Cleaner Female Face Texture. It was basically a test mod, and the reason I did it was that like textures are a little bit muddy in Dragon's Dogma, and people like character creation, and one of the big parts of that is the face. And so I just took the face texture, put it in like a phone app that like you would use for like photoshopping out like blemishes, and I just kind of smoothed over the face to kind of blend everything together a little bit better, put it back in the game, and it looked half decent. I was like, I should upload this, and that's how it all started.
This is crazy. What year was it?
Probably even look it up. It was 2019.
2019. That's 6 years ago.
Oh, no, wait. That's the update. March 26, 2019. That's the OG upload.
Six years ago. How long have you been working on Project Dragonforged?
I started working on it late 2021. My first entry in it was I actually did a little teaser of what was to come. And I uploaded something called a Fortress Besieged Improved Boss Fight, where I swapped out the kind of boring, it's just a hobgoblin. You know, you get this big siege battle, and all these like trained warriors can't take it out, which makes sense because there's like cyclopses in the Balasai. But it felt weird that you go through this epic siege battle. It's one of my favorite quests in the game, and the boss is just a hobgoblin chieftain. He's just slightly stronger than a hobgoblin. And I'm a bit of a difficulty junkie, and I'm like, I'm making you the strongest goblin. And that was my very first Project Dragonforged mod before I had even come up with a name for the project. Back then, I called it a slightly more interesting Grancis, because I hadn't planned on adding so much.
Why Project Dragonforged, by the way?
Obviously, it sounds cool. It's a reference to a character in the game.
Yeah,
and I, at least in my opinion, am making improvements in the game. And what's it called when you upgrade a weapon? Dragonforging it.
Yeah. But I have to ask you, because we will be talking about it as well later on, why aren't you modding Dragon's Dogma 2 instead?
There's a few reasons for that. So, first of all, I did start modding before Dragon's Dogma 2 was even announced.
Well, fair enough,
and I felt like I didn't want to just be like, well, I've got this project I've been working on for I've been working on for several months by the time the 2 was announced, and I was even trying to finish it. I tried really hard to finish it to give everyone something fun to play with while they were waiting on 2, but I couldn't finish it because I didn't get the tools I needed. But for starters, didn't want to abandon the project, like I said, but also everyone flocked to DD2, and it got a lot more of an initial audience, and I saw mods just flooding in that were immediately off the bat more complicated than what most everyone else knows how to do with the first game. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait for tools to pile up so I have plenty of things to use when I do get into modding, and other people have it covered. I'm going to show the love to Dark Arisen. That's probably going to happen immediately to 2, but like never really happened to the first game.
But, just a quick sneak peek into the future. You are going to try and make something for Dragon's Dogma 2 as well, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, are you working on something else, like alongside Project Dragonforged? Some other projects?
A little bit. They're kind of on the back burner because Project Dragonforged is so big and it's got all these cool gameplay things. But my very first project for the game, which started back in 2018, was Dragon's Dogma Remastered, where I work on all the elements of the visuals to the absolute best of my ability. The main thing was textures, but the problem that arose there was that I started with AI upscaling, and then I realized like a year or two in that it sucks. And so I've been spending the last couple of years trying to learn art, try to make handmade textures, took some college classes, watched a lot of tutorials. I mean, I've spent thousands upon thousands of hours just trying to work on that, and it's hard. It's very hard to match something. It's much easier to make your own thing, in my personal experience and opinion. So that's why besides Project Dragonforged, why Remastered's taking so long. It's really hard to make something faithful to the original, and that's where I'm kind of stuck at. So it's a little bit on the back burner. I work on other stuff, like besides the textures. As you all saw in the teaser, there's new, spoiler, there's new models. I had trouble getting like armor and clothing in, because that one's a bit of a sticking point, but you'll see that in every shot, I have like a new weapon, which we'll talk about later, but I got custom models working. Woohoo! I actually had to pay a guy quite a bit of money for that tool. There's new models, so I do hope to make improvements to models in the game, but the original intention was to push the game as far as I could with just textures, but now I'm getting fancy. I've got some model work, I got texture work, I'm working on lighting and shadows, etc. So that's my other project, but it is very much on the back burner, and I just do little tweaks to it here and there because I'm mainly focused on Project Dragonforged. So, when it comes to the shadows, I had a buddy make me a tool. It's pretty bare bones, I can do a little bit with it, but I could at least look at the names of different parameters in the files, and I found some, at least out in Grancis. It seems to be different out in like the cities and stuff, so I've got plenty of work ahead of me. But I found parameters that up the shadow resolution, so we won't have pixelated, moving, jagged edge, stair-step effect shadows anymore. Plenty of playing around to do, but it was really satisfying seeing like super high-res shadows in the game, especially like on plants. Like I'd walk next to a bush, and I could actually see the outline of each leaf shadowed on the ground. Very cool stuff. Very excited to improve the visuals there.
Yeah, this is crazy. I mean, it looks stunning in some areas, but it aged. Some places you can see that it's a game from 2013.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely aged a bit, and I find that was actually what started Dragon's Dogma Remastered. A lot of people are like, oh, I love the game, but the visuals are kind of dated. I'm like, all right, I'm on it, because you guys got to play this.
Did you always believe Dragon's Dogma 2 was coming eventually?
Yeah, I mean, I had really, really high hopes for it. I would check every single Capcom-related thing, every video that was going to be out on YouTube, every broadcast, whatever. I was always checking for news, felt like I was going to lose my mind. And I know this sounds really cliche, but I kid you not, literally the day that it was announced, before it got announced, I was starting to lose hope, because so many things had like come up and it just seemed such perfect timing for it to come out. And there was just not even a mention of the game, or it'd be like, by the way, Dragon's Dogma is cool, or there's an anniversary coming up. Anyway, see ya. And I was like, what? So I was like jaded when I woke up that morning, especially because I was very sick, and I'm sitting there way too early in the morning for me. He does the thing where he opens up the shirt and it says Dragon's Dogma 2, sorry to keep you waiting. I was like, holy fucking shit! Like, I started losing it, and that was a great day. I think it halfway cured my sickness.
You were streaming it too, right?
I did basically a live quote-unquote recording. I didn't stream it, but it's up on YouTube. Maybe don't watch it because it's embarrassing as hell.
Oh, no. We'll absolutely have to put it right here in the video, right here.
Holy fucking shit.
There you go. I'm sorry, Austin. This is just how it is. And finally, the last question here in this section. Do you think there will be a DLC for Dragon's Dogma 2?
I really, really hope so. Especially because, there's a lot of reason I'd want a DLC. I want to play more of the game. I think the game is fun to play in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I, like everyone else, want more content out of it. I want more ways to experience the game. Obviously, I don't know for sure, and so I find it hard to say if I think there will be, but at the very least, I really hope there is, especially because I need more to play on my PlayStation, because my PC is not good enough to handle DD2, so I can't even mod it for more fun right now.
I 100% understand. I play on PC, and I've got 500 hours, I think, in the game. At least 200, 250 hours. The half of my playtime is there because of the mods, which is crazy. Because some of the mods, they just change the way you approach everything in the game. Pretty cool.
Yeah, they definitely add a lot of replayability, in some cases a little bit of polish, difficulty. It's really, really nice, because I've played around with them just a tiny bit, but most of my playing around with it has been a slideshow even outside of cities, so when I get that PC upgrade, believe you me, I'm going to be adding quite a bit more playtime to the title.
Yeah, well, I really hope that you'll also be producing really sick mods for us, for everyone in the community, for Dragon's Dogma 2, because, what you're doing with Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, imagine the scale, imagine what could be done for Dragon's Dogma 2.
I can't imagine too hard, otherwise I'll start working on it.
Yeah, with your skill and your dedication. It's crazy, man. Oh, by the way, we do have animated backdrops, and I made 3. So one in Vermont, one in Batal, and one in Volcanic Island. They're pretty cool, and some of them really showcase how spontaneous and random Dragon's Dogma 2 can be. Anyways, I just wanted to say it because I think it's pretty fun. That we're in Batal now, by the way, and it's nighttime.
Nice.
It's nighttime. It's dark. Okay. We're finally moving to the meat of this video. Segment number 2, the deep dive into Project Dragonforged, an overhaul that adds a ridiculous amount of content, cut content restored, brand new items, new locations, new monsters, and a whole stack of bug fixes. We're also going to talk about why Austin decided to cross Dark Arisen with Dark Souls, how he plans to ship the project, how long he thinks it'll take to finish, and what kind of help he still needs to speed things up. You can use the chapters for easier navigation, and there will be a short summary at the end of this segment if you want a quick recap. Though if you want to support what I'm doing here, watching the whole thing is the best way to send a positive signal to YouTube that this series is worth pushing. And of course, another huge way to support this channel is to subscribe. The next interview I'm working on is with the amazing Nick Esponja, one of the most prominent Dragon's Dogma 2 modders out there, in my opinion. He's the creator of Dullahan, Durnevere, and the new upcoming mod Bestiary that aims to add new monsters into the game and give the existing ones new moves. So subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Alright, segment number 2. Deep dive into Project Dragonforged itself now. I've got 3 questions, to start this thing. First of all, you mentioned there will be bug fixes, cut content will be restored, new content will be added. So let's start with the bug fixes.
There are 2 main bugs, and there's actually a thing that's not even, I wouldn't consider a bug, but just needed fixed anyway, so I'll get into it. The most major one is back in 2013, it's even on the old console versions of the game, when Dark Arisen was released, it introduced a bug in the game that locked all NPCs to 1,000 HP. And the game actually, I'll just clarify this for anyone that's confused, because technically anything that's not you is an NPC, but the game makes a distinction between enemies and NPCs. A goblin is an enemy. A bandit is an enemy. Obviously a dragon or a cyclops, they're an enemy, so obviously they aren't stuck at 1,000 HP. But someone like you would talk to in town, like a guard, if you start attacking them outside of town, they fight back, that's an NPC. The seneschal is an NPC. Salomet, like, you ever
Ballsack?
notice that those NPC, yeah, that guy, those guys are all really easy to fight, and it's because they're all stuck at 1,000 HP, which is not a lot of HP.
Yeah.
And the reason you can't fix that by just upping the defense is that the way Dragon's Dogma works with defense is that it's a flat additive. It doesn't it's not like you have 500 defense and you remove 70% of damage or whatever. It's the whole threshold thing. So we're like, if I have 500 strength and you have 600 defense, I can't damage you. I'm doing 1 damage at a time. But as soon as I cross that threshold, I start damaging you very quickly. And so I even explained in one of my videos, let's say I just wanted to take all the NPCs and I just gave them really high defense to compensate for their high health, you're still going to one-shot them with a throw blast. So that definitely, the health had to be fixed. And so a buddy of mine, my programmer buddy, looked into the code, found the bug, wrote it into my tool that allows me to add new content to the game and also make changes to the actual hard-coded EXE stuff. And yeah, I still have to do a lot of work for it. It doesn't just automatically fix it. I have to go in and change HP values, but it solves the issue. So now bosses have 20,000, 30,000 HP like they were supposed to. So now all of the NPC bosses actually last more than 2 hits, and it's right off the bat an immediate improvement to the game. It's so much more fun to play, much more challenging. I literally didn't even know that Salomet had multiple phases until I fixed his HP. The other bug, and this one's much harder to fix, I've done minimally. I'm trying to look into doing it better, but there are parts where enemies will pop out of place. And this happens all over the map, but some of them are just due to how the game renders enemies, which I'll talk about in a second. But some of them are just straight up mistakes that I found in the code, which is interesting because it not only doesn't happen to everybody, but it doesn't seem to happen on console. But the example I always use, let me know if this has ever happened to you. Have you ever been playing the Ox Cart quest where you're going through the mountain pass and you hear Mercedes say, "Is it the serpent's blood that draws them?" And you go to attack the wolves and they pop out of existence when you get too close. Has that ever happened to you?
No, never.
Okay. You see, I've had it. That's kind of interesting. So it's happened to me from the moment I got the game back in 2018, but I've not heard other people report it. And so
they just disappear, or
yeah, they'll pop out of existence. And I found out this. I'm gonna have to do a nutshell on this because I don't want to confuse people. But there's these files that actually tell the enemy to spawn, and then there's a file that basically tells you if the enemy can spawn there. It's called a GPL. You go in, and in the area that you're standing in, it's actually listed in a grid coordinate type system. I found an unnecessary bandit entry, and so bandits do not appear right there, so I swapped it out with a wolf entry and they stopped disappearing, so I fixed that bug. And so basically what I'm doing now is I'm trying to go through and find instances of that. The other problem is this. The game can only render 10 enemies on the screen. Notice I said enemies and not NPCs because it can do up to 30 NPCs. So that's why you'll be walking out in Grantis and you'll see goblins pop in and out of existence because all those ox and even just birds that are around, those count as enemies. And so I'm actually
birds.
hoping,
You mean the critters, birds and bunnies? The ones that
all those count as an enemy.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so that's why you'll be out in Grantis, you'll be fighting a hobgoblin, and it just ceases to exist suddenly because that area is not well spaced out and optimized in terms of how the enemies are rendered. I'm actually hoping that I can improve how many can render on the screen at once, but we'll see.
Was it intentional? Do you think it was intentional to let the game run better on the console, like Xbox 360, PS3? It was a long time ago.
That's what I think, but I have heard it's more of an engine thing, but I'm going to tell you something that makes me think I can get around it. Yeah. So, this is why I specified enemies and NPCs earlier.
Okay.
You know those corrupt pawns, not the ones in Bitterblack Isle that are basically bandits. You know the corrupted pawns that you fight in the Dragon arena?
Okay, yeah.
Those are NPCs, and they have a more sophisticated AI and system than the enemy bandits do, and I can put 30 of those on screen. I even showed it off in that first Project Dragonforged. Like the really, really small one, that it's not really a bug, but I thought it needed fixing. There's a bunch of special enemies in the game that are, like, stronger. So, like, if you do the quest where you go down into the Overhaul for Barnaby, and you pull it out, there's a skeleton that has its own little intro cutscene. And, you open up the coffin, and it's got the lever in there, but then the skeleton forms and you gotta fight it. That skeleton is stronger than all the other skeletons, but has no increased XP. But he's actually roughly 20% stronger overall when you take the stats into account. So I boosted his XP drop by 20%. And I started doing that with any special enemies in the game that are stronger than normal. So like the Saurian in the Deeper Trouble, where you go down to the well in Castradus and you find out there's all the eggs and stuff. That Saurian's 50% bigger and 50% stronger, but gives no extra XP. So I made it give extra. And so I started doing that, just like little more immersion, little bit more reward for taking on a stronger enemy for the player. I thought that was kind of cool, but it's not really a bug fix, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So what about cut content? Do you want to talk about cut content that you are going to restore? Or rather, you're restoring already? There's a lot of people asked about the moon, and we'll talk about it later, but can you just briefly can you just briefly, tell us what cut content are you going to restore?
When I was referring to the cut content, there's lots of stuff I'm working on, and I actually want to keep some of it secret. Gotta keep some of my stuff in my coat. But one of the first instances of cut content that I started restoring, there are actually items in the game that you can't normally obtain, but through save editing. I mean, there's a save you can download on Nexus, and it gives you every item that exists. And I was curious about that, and I started looking through it, and I found that some of these items actually have like a name and description. So like one of the first ones I ever stumbled across was called Eager Fang, and it's Madeline was supposed to have a custom dagger, and now she just has like the divine razors, and it was supposed to be an important quest item or something like that. One of the ones that I've actually like just about fully restored, and by restored I do have to take a little bit of creative liberty because we don't know what it should look like, but this was the one I talked to you about in our little previous discussion. Yeah. So for those listening, there is a staff in the game that was cut. It doesn't have a model or anything, and I couldn't find anything in the art book that suggested what it might look like. But it's called Unbowed Tree, and it was supposed to be a custom staff that Celine would carry. And so I started thinking about, I want to restore this. What could it possibly look like? And then I remembered that in the Witchwood, some of those talismans that are floating, actually, a couple of them have like a large stick, almost like a staff, attached to it. So I took one of those, and those like wristbands that are made out of like herbs and dried leaves and whatnot, and talismans like that are on Celine's wrists, I wrapped those around the staff, and I was like, yeah, I think that's a pretty good idea of what it might look like, and then I put it in the game, and it has its own secret way to obtain it. Pretty proud of that one, actually. It's just really cool. So I've been going through and doing my best to restore cut content, or at the very least make what was never made but had the idea, like I did with that staff. So that's one of the things that I'm doing that I thought was going to be pretty cool.
So since you make new item, but that staff, for example, that's pretty much a new item, so it should have like all the bells and whistles, the icon and everything. We're going back to the teasers now. The second one especially, you showcase a lot of new items. Weapons and shields. Yeah, a lot of them are from different games. There's a shield, I definitely remember a shield from Dragon's Dogma 2. There are some weapons from Dark Souls. So can you like walk us through how you make new weapons in the game?
So basically what I do, I find a model that I need, and thankfully my model tool is working just enough that I actually can just like port a model straight into the game. But the general process, let's say I'm just putting a sword in. I will either make or find the model that I want to use, like port from a different game. I load it up, and you have to convert all of the texture types to the texture type that Dragon's Dogma uses so it can read it. And then you do something called weight painting, which is really easy with weapons, but not equipment, because weapons are just solid red because they don't bend or like move, except for bows. Bows are a little harder. To make sure it has all those bells and whistles, like you said, I'm not just putting it into the game. And again, one thing that I want to touch on, I'm not replacing existing weapons. Or existing content. I am actually putting straight up new content into the game. And so it's like a blank slate when I do it. For instance, I'll get to the icon part real quick. Once I put the thing in the game, I'll make an icon for it. And later I'm going to do like better hand-drawn stuff. But for now, a quick way that I make an icon is I'll like load up the model, put the textures on it, position it at the right angle that all those icons have. You know, they're kind of pointing up towards the top left of the square, so to speak. I'll render it. I will put it in my image editing software. I use GIMP. There's a filter called like simple iterative clustering or something like that, and it gives it a more cartoonish look. You do some blur, you do some shine, you do some noise in the background, you do a glow around it, and boom. That's a quick way that I do like an icon, just so it has like a nice placeholder. Then of course you gotta add like a name, a description, you gotta add all the stats. I'm literally doing everything from scratch. And just making a whole new thing as if it just always existed in the game. And it's pretty cool. I have a lot of fun, especially doing the item descriptions, or like, here's a really cool one. I love actually making them as true to the thing as it possibly can be. So like for fans of Berserk, I added the Dragon Slayer. I messed with its stats to be really, really unique, and I had to get creative with it, and I'm pretty proud of this. So in the manga, it's, I can't remember exactly how, it's like killed so many things and intermingled with so many like, so much demon's blood or whatever. Forgive me, I'm not as brushed up on it as I should be. It can kill ghosts, and it can actually hit ethereal things. So I gave the Dragon Slayer, even though it doesn't have an element, I gave it a magic stat. So you can actually kill ghosts with it without it being enchanted. So what I did, I actually made it do maximum damage. So the Berserk fans are going to be elated, but it does have a drawback to it. So here's what I did. I maxed out physical damage and its magical damage, even though it doesn't normally do magic. It turns out if it doesn't have an element, if you increase the amount of magical damage on it, it also increases the physical damage once you get beyond a certain value. So I made it hit incredibly hard, and then I doubled that by making it, because, you know, it's a big hunk of iron, it does slashing and it kind of bashes things, so I made it do slashing and blunt damage, so it does a lot of damage. Here's the drawback. I know it's like 400 pounds or like hundreds of kilograms or whatever it is, but I made it weigh 20 kilograms, which is like the heaviest thing in the game, just because I didn't want it to be too bad, but it's supposed to be really heavy. And then here's the kicker. I set its level requirement at beyond 200, so even when you're max level, it does take extra stamina to use. You'll never be able to reach a level high enough to not make it take stamina. However, once you reach level 200, I have the stamina penalty.
Let's talk about the teasers again for a little bit. So there are 2 teasers. Right now they're out. Got a lot of Easter eggs and hidden things there. So how many Easter eggs were hidden in there, and how many do you think people missed?
Judging on how many comments I got saying, "What changed? This looks like vanilla," and I was like, "Are you fucking shitting me?" Like, I'm like, did you not see me chop off a Hydra's head where Hydras don't appear with a freaking Elden Ring greatsword? Okay, cool. I guess you guys haven't played the game. So there's a lot of Easter eggs. I don't remember like the exact amount off the top of my head. And you know what? I wasn't gonna do this originally, but I'll give a cool little. We can even put this off the record if you think it's for the best, but I was thinking about doing something for the audience that actually watches this and actually watches this long. One of the biggest Easter eggs at the end, and someone actually almost caught it in the comments. They're like, "Oh, so you're adding Dark Souls to the game?" I don't know about you, but I always found Demon Souls more interesting. Well, it went right over head. They were real close, though. That intro where it says, "Are you prepared to die?" and then it gives you the big reveal. That, like, sound effect where everything's fading in, that's from Demon Souls, because I'm also doing Demon Souls. The start screen for Dark Souls is silent, so that was a very subtle Easter egg that I added to my little project. So, pretty ambitious stuff. Not sure if we'll switch this around content-wise, but the first parts of Project Dragonforged, it's going to be released in chunks because it's so ambitious, so I don't want to have to keep everyone waiting longer and longer. So, like, the part with the soul, like Dark Souls and stuff, is going to be released kind of afterwards. I just wanted to show everybody how crazy things were getting. But back to Easter egg explanation. In every shot, there is at least one new thing. So in every single shot where like something changes, I am actually carrying a new weapon. And then of course you'll see there's a lot of parts where, especially in the early parts, all the enemies that I am fighting did not originally exist there. So like that wyvern that's chasing me down at the beginning when it says, are you prepared to run? He's not in the Windworn Valley. Normally that place is just full of snow harpies. So that's one of the examples. But the big one that I was doing, which was admittedly hard to see, especially like for instance during the are you prepared to fight and you see me unsheath all the weapons? Obviously a big one like the Elden Ring Greatsword is going to be really noticeable, but as I'm walking towards the direwolves, the daggers that I pull out are the Batali Biters from Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, in a shorter explanation, in every shot I am carrying a weapon that did not exist before in the game, or at least wasn't available to the player. So like one of my favorite shots is I'm standing there in the dark, and I turn on my lantern. On my hip, I'm wielding the God's Bane, and then I turn around, and I've got the Living Armor's version of the Dragon's Faith Shield. I actually called it the Dragon Spirit in-game.
Since we were talking about Dark Souls and everything, question that a lot of people asked, I've seen a lot of people, like, saw a lot of comments where people saying, like, what the hell, why Dark Souls? I think it can be a deal breaker for some people, for maybe even a lot of people. So why Dark Souls, and what do you think inspired that crossover, that blend?
First off, I did see some of those comments too. I'll kind of address them the best I can. As for why I picked Dark Souls just happens to be one of my other favorite games. I love the Souls series. I have been playing since Demon Souls in 2009. I mean, literally my profile picture is the Demon Souls Knight. It's like the fluted armor.
Yeah.
So yeah, big inspiration for me. Love the Souls games, but I think they're kind of thematically cohesive. It's, you know, the dark fantasy world, different kinds of difficulty, but you know what I mean. They're both a love letter to Berserk. And so I just thought it would be really cool to do that because I really have a thing for crossovers. I always have. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, and there's many things that also kind of gave me some inspiration. But one of the things that I wanted to do Dark Souls for is I love the world of Dark Souls. I love exploring it. But in Dark Souls, the movement and combat, this is no offense, love the game, it's a little bit simple, you know? You can kind of move, like you just walk or run, and you can kind of do like that little leap where you do like the running jump or whatever, and the combat is relatively straightforward and simple. It's not, but you know what I mean.
Yes, it's elegantly simplistic, I'd say. Not just the movement, the combat too. Yeah, very straightforward, yeah.
Of course, you can get really good and skilled with it. I was, back in my early college days, I was unstoppable with just a regular longsword. I've got some stories on that, but that's for another time. I thought it would be really cool to experience the world of Dark Souls through the lens of a Dragon's Dogma character, because you can do a lot more with movement in Dragon's Dogma alone. Forget the combat, you can jump way more effectively in Dragon's Dogma. You can climb, kind of parkour off walls, double jump, all that. So I just think it'd be cool to experience even just the exploration alone of that world within it. You'll be able to see things you normally can't see. You can just move so much differently. But of course, the big thing in Dragon's Dogma is combat. I love the Dragon's Dogma combat system. Don't get me wrong, I love Dark Souls as well, but I always thought it would be very interesting. This is kind of a big thing for me. I have this major interest in putting a character in a world that they were not made for and seeing how they interact with that world. I think it would be really interesting, and I can make tweaks if need be once the project comes along better, but I think it'd be very interesting to have your character up against the Taurus demon from Dark Souls.
Yeah.
The way every enemy is built for how you move in Dark Souls. So I think it'll be interesting to see what breaks and what actually lines up right, or like, well, when it comes to you fighting in a way that the enemies were not built for. Because there are going to be some enemies that you're just going to obliterate because they're not used to the skill set of an Arisen. But there's going to be some enemies that are like, they're actually kind of hard in Dark Souls and like move quicker and you're at a disadvantage and whatnot, that might be still interesting to fight as an Arisen. And one thing I will say, the earliest release of the Dark Souls stuff will have the enemies replaced with their closest Dragon's Dogma counterpart. So for instance, the Taurus demon would just be like a big, extra strong eliminator, for instance. But I do actually plan to actually have the Dark Souls enemies ported. That's the more ambitious part. But again, I need a tool for animations. So that's where we're at there.
So with all being said, do you ever really worry that merging Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen with Dark Souls could break immersion for some players? What do you think about that?
A little bit, but I did put quite a bit of thought into how it would work, and one of the main things that sort of makes it work is this idea I had called the Everclimb. That's its working title anyway. Mm-hmm. If you look into the cut content, lots of the community is interested in the cut content for Dragon's Dogma, and a lot of people bring up the infinite tower to the moon. Mm-hmm, that was cut. It's like, and it's in the art book and like all the interviews and stuff. So I was like, fuck it, I'm restoring it. So I've always wanted to do that. And one of the things that they talk about with the Everclimb, I don't think they actually really named it. They just called it like the Tower to the Moon. Perhaps I'm misremembering, but anyway, it is said that you fought through like all of these multiple levels of enemies, but that this tower was also the connection to other worlds. And Dragon's Dogma deals with infinite universes, parallel ones, and, you know, all these realities and whatnot. And so I had this idea to sort of almost make this Everclimb that I'm working on, this restored version, my idea of a restored version of this infinite tower to the moon. You'll fight through waves and waves, sort of like Devil May Cry's Bloody Palace. So you'll fight through waves of increasingly difficult enemies, and then after you've cleared, the 10th stage, on each 11th floor, room will be empty except for something at the center. And on one of them, because this is how you enter a bunch of my DLCs, one of the first ones would be you fight through, 10 levels of increasingly hard enemies, and then on the 11th level, just sitting there in the center as a bonfire. Player will be like, what's that? Is that what I think it is? You walk up, you touch it, and
it brings you to the Firelink Shrine.
Yes.
So Dark Souls basically is one of the universes that you can access from this infinite tower that you call the Everclimb. So Dark Souls is pretty much like one of the, parallel universes.
Yeah, and I know that obviously wouldn't be the idea of, the developers. I just thought it was a cool way to explain my little crossover I've got going on.
Would it be optional?
Yeah, I mean, you do not have to go there, especially because the mod doesn't really... I mean, it has lore that I've kind of written in, but it's not like you have to complete it to do parts of the story. It is literally there for fun.
And it will be like a separate chunk, right? So it can be like...
Yes.
It will be a DLC, so like a downloadable chunk that you can pretty much skip if you don't want that.
You can just choose... You can skip it if you really wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that. All you'd miss out on is, I've added new items to the game. So, if you don't go to the Dark Souls world or don't download the stage to be able to go there, you'd miss out on, for instance, grabbing the Elite Knight armor if you wanted to wear it. But, also Dinput exists, and you could cheat it in if you really wanted to. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So, since we're talking about this, what about this thing called the Arisen's Nightmare? It's something that I already know about, but I want you to introduce this thing to the viewer. It's one of the sort of, parallel universes. What's the Arisen's Nightmare?
It is this copy of Grancis and all the places that you can go. I don't want to spoil all my secrets, but one of the big things that you'll come across that's scary, I guess, every single enemy has been swapped out with its strongest version. All the goblins are now greater goblins. The Cyclops are Gore Cyclops, sometimes even Prisoner Gore Cyclops. Instead of packs of wolves, you've got packs of Garm. Just everything is the worst possible scenario in terms of the enemies. So a lot of people asked if this was going to be world difficulty. I am not bad-mouthing the creator by any means. This is just my own personal preference. When it comes to world difficulty, everything is super strong. Everything is really, really powerful. And the reason I don't like that is that I feel like I get less of a sense of progression. I mean, I've watched, I'm sure lots of people, including myself, have seen that video where a guy is like level 200, pretty good build. He's got cursed light, and he is like taking forever to kill a single goblin. Now, I'm fairly sure it's been patched from that point. It's been like adjusted. But what I don't like about enemies all being stronger across the board is that you don't feel that sense of progression. And another problem with Dragon's Dogma, which is what World Difficulty was born from, is that, like, you get to a point where you're incredibly strong. And so everything becomes fodder. So one of my initial ideas for Project Dragonforged was to make enemies with adjusted stats, but they were handpicked. And that's a big thing that I kind of forgot to mention about Project Dragonforged while we were talking about it. The enemies that you will encounter, I have handpicked and or added new placements with adjusted stats. So, like, a little bit of a secret, you see it in the first teaser, there is a chimera outside the Blighted Manse. I made it 25% bigger and doubled all of its stats. So you're going to be coming across enemies that are stronger that kind of help with basically raising the ceiling on how hard things are. I have added a handful of challenges in Project Dragonforged that even with a min-maxed and or very optimized build and a full party of pawns, and someone that, such as myself that's been playing the game for basically 12 years straight, it's hard. I died like 84 times on one of the encounters. So I basically have just offered a higher ceiling, but you go ahead with what you're asking. I was about to get to the next point, sorry.
No, it's all right. That's what I really like about you, to be honest. You can just talk for ages about stuff that, you know, that you're really passionate about, and it's a treat, to be honest. I don't even have to do anything. I just have to sit here and blink. I don't have to do anything. So the Arisen's Nightmare is it's another DLC pack, like another chunk, right? And it's like a nightmare version of Grances, pretty much like the Unmoored World in Dragon's Dogma 2, right?
Somewhat similar, yeah.
And how do you access that? Do you access that through the Everclimb or through Bitterblack Isle?
It is actually found in Bitterblack Isle, and I will actually transition into the lore part and how you access it. So how you access it is in, suddenly drawing a blank on the name because I'm on the spot, but when you get your first Void Key and you unlock that first door that's in Duskmoon Tower to like go through the rest of Bitterblack Isle, in that area there are beds, and they're just like these 2 bunk beds, and they've got like corpses on them and stuff like that. Well, how you enter is that I have actually added a new option. It'll say enter on the prompt, but it's supposed to like imply that you went to bed there. And when you enter the stage by sleeping, you wake up in a nightmare version of Cashardus in your home. And that's how you access the world.
I'm going to ask you the same question again. It's another optional chunk, right? It's another optional DLC.
Yeah, it's totally optional, though I highly recommend it because it's the one I've put like the most work into. So like, play it, guys. But no.
Can you go back and forth? Can you go there, then realize like? Can you go there, get your ass kicked, and come back?
Yeah, you can. I even made it so you can fairy stone out if you want to. It's not like Bitterblack Isle where you get stuck. You can just be like, screw this, and teleport straight back to regular Cashardus if you want.
This is absolutely fantastic. I don't even know what to say. This is like really, it's mind-blowing. And you know what? This begs the question. I've got a few tech questions for you. Let's start with the one that like everyone who's listening, watching right now probably wants to ask you that. How long do you think it will take you to finish? I don't want to say the whole thing, but let's say one of the chunks.
That's really hard to say, and I think we'll talk about this a bit later, but one of the things that is taking me so long is that there are things that like are giving me problems, where they're like something's making the game crash or something's not quite working, etc. And I need tools. But my 2 programmer buddies, one of them, his time is just like limited. He and I communicate pretty frequently, but he's got a lot of other stuff. But the main guy that's helped me with everything, I'm going to give him a shout out because I asked his permission, and he's cool with me, like, giving him publicity, so to speak. His name on Discord, he goes by like Arlana on like Nexus and Discord, but his name is Chris Purnell. He's my boy. He's awesome. You can thank him for a lot of things, such as helping me restore the Berserk equipment, helping me fix the issue with the NPCs being stuck to 1,000. Like, he's been invaluable in helping me figure out what the hell is wrong with stuff, why certain things weren't working. He just understands the code in a way that I can't wrap my head around. He's awesome. But he's been very busy lately, so because of that, I'm kind of stuck. There are certain things I need to solve that I can't solve without help. So, like I said, we'll probably talk about it later. Hopefully this video might bring in some people to help me with, like, programming and tools and whatnot. If I magically had all of the tools I needed for the first part of Grantis, I think I could I'd probably go into ADHD hyperfocus mode and finish it in a week or less. For Nightmare Grantis, I know exactly what I'm doing. I could probably finish that in a few weeks. The rest of the stuff that's much bigger would probably take me several months. And that's, again, if I just magically had every single tool I needed. So right now, I have no idea of on an ETA, but if I had the tools, it'd be pretty quick, because a lot of the stuff is like sitting there in place, already have the idea for it, already know how it should work, there's just something in the way, and as soon as I have the tool, I'll get it done. I mean, the whole thing with like Dark Souls, that Firelink Shrine that you saw in my teaser, I got the collision tool working, and I posted it on YouTube. I was like, hey guys, one of my roadblocks was cleared, and then I had Dark Souls in the game 2 weeks later, because I was fervently working on that shit. I apologize. In a nutshell, it's hard to put an ETA on it because I need help with tools.
This is the next thing we're going to discuss, actually. Can you tell us about the tools? Like, what tools do you already have, and what tools do you still need to make progress, to continue making progress?
Alright, so the tools that I have a mostly functioning model tool. Fine. That's how I've been able to put like the new weapons and of course the new stages, and it finally has collision in it too. And the reason I say mostly functioning, it has a little trouble with some armor and clothing that I'm trying to figure out. And then the big one, because I know this is what everyone's going to look forward to, when I try to do body models, like the one that I was trying to do, I tried to put in some like higher poly like fingertips, because they're like all boxy, and I tried to do a better shadow model, and it worked. It gets in the game, but like there's shading issues where like in some cutscenes the body won't have any shading on it, so like you'll just look all weird. It's kind of hard to explain. It has a problem with body models. It's weird. You'll like look at the camera and your eyes will be black. You'll face away from the camera and they'll be normal, or they'll like light up when it's dark. It's weird. So there's glitches and shading and crashes and stuff, so it doesn't work with body models correctly yet. But it's getting there. That's basically it on more advanced tools. Everything else I have either done in Hex, or my buddy Chris Purnell at least made what's called an XML tool. So like I can drag it on a file onto the thing, and then I can kind of read the code in sort of English instead of just like all a jumble of numbers, which has been really helpful because that's what's helped me add new items to the item list and like give the items like stats and stuff. I have a tool that opens up the message files so I can change like and or add like item descriptions and stuff. But literally just about everything else I have to do by hand, or at best I have one of those XML tools and I can kind of do some trial and error. That's basically it. The tools for Dragon's Dogma are incredibly limited. I hate to like say that because I know a lot of people had their hopes up because everybody was saying like, oh, there's all this cool stuff in your teaser. It's so cool that Dragon's Dogma modding is finally getting all the tools it needs. I'm like, I am still doing this from scratch. That's why it's taking so long. So the only advanced tool I have is that model tool. I had to reach out to a guy, and he was kind enough to, after I paid him quite a bit, make the tool. I mean, he had a pretty fair price, but yeah, that's all I've got. So what I really need, like one of the things that Chris Purnell was telling me he was going to work on, that would greatly speed up the thing. He's just been too busy to get to it, and I think he had a little trouble in some spots. I place things like items, decoration, torches, enemies, everything like that. They're all controlled by something called a lot file. And I convert those to XML and kind of set the placements. So like it took me like days to line up for instance, the bonfire effect for that Dark Souls clip. I remember it took me like 3 days to place like a mug of ale on a counter just exactly right. So it takes a long time to do that. He was working on a tool where you could open up a map in 3D and just drop things in place, drop enemies and items, so I could do things basically instantly. I want that so bad because it'll make things that take me months take a few minutes. So, if you want an ETA, I'd say next week if I got that tool.
But that basically means that if Chris is able to do it, other people could as well.
It's all possible. I just need people that understand programming the way that he does.
That's why...
That's where it comes in.
And that brings us to the most important part of this video, because, like I said earlier, recruitment is one of the core goals of this very video. Can you please tell us what help do you need with Project Dragonforged in terms of tools? Maybe somebody who's watching / listening to this video knows how to do it, or knows people who know how to do it. What roles are you looking to fill?
What I really need is people who understand code and programming, can understand things like debug symbols, know how to look at a game and just kind of figure out how things work, because that's the part that I can't wrap my head around. I need people who are good with programming and code, and they can look at something, find functions, make a tool for it, etc. I just, this is so out of my scope that I have trouble explaining exactly what I need, because I know so little about it. I've tried so many times to understand it, but I don't. But that's, if people listening can understand, that's basically all I need. One guy that understands code but doesn't know how to make tools, but a guy that knows how to make tools, and the guy can explain just something. I need help with that, because, I mean, even one of the big things, if we want to be more simple, there are certain files that I know affect what I want to edit, but I don't have a tool to even open them up in XML like I was talking about. Even those are extremely helpful, just so I can understand what's going on better. Otherwise, I'm looking at hex code for like 3 months and figuring out patterns.
So, if somebody who's watching right now wants to help out, how can they reach out?
Discord's my main thing, but I'm open to other forms of communication if it is suggested to me.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that.
Now that we've wrapped up segment 2, the deep dive, here's a lightning fast summary of what you just watched. Project Dragonforged is massive, but also modular. Austin plans to release it in separate optional chunks. For example, there's the Arisen's Nightmare, a nightmare version of Grance's with tougher enemy variants, somewhat similar to the Unmoored World in Dragon's Dogma 2. And there's the Dark Souls section, where you explore places like the Undead Burg using the Arisen's full moveset. At least for now, all of this is being built through a hex editor and a modeling tool, which means process is slow as hell because so much of it is trial and error. With proper tools and some advanced programmers helping out, Austin genuinely believes he could finish Project Dragonforged in a few months. So if you're someone with coding experience, or you know someone who is, you can reach out to Austin on Discord. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. And honestly, this summary doesn't do the segment justice. If you skipped around, I highly recommend watching the whole thing at some point.
Just before we move to the last couple of questions I have, they're not about Project Dragonforged, they're about Dragon's Dogma 2. Are you ready? You better be.
Alright, let's do this.
Are you planning to do something similar to Project Dragonforged, but with Dragon's Dogma 2?
I don't know if it'll be quite as big in scale, for the simple reason that Project Dragonforged is gigantic. But I do have really cool plans for the second game. I'm hoping DLC comes out, because part of what I do will obviously depend on if more content gets added to the game. But either way, I've got some ideas.
But I mean, can you just tell me, explain it like I'm 5 years old, with all the existing tools, and there's there's a lot, right? With all the tools that are available already. People make their own vocations, they create their own vocations. What can already be done to Dragon's Dogma 2 right now? Is it possible to add new enemies, or new locations, new areas?
I'm pretty confident we could make new enemies. I haven't brushed up on the modding or the modding Discord for a little bit, but that's definitely, I'm nearly positive we could do some pretty cool stuff there. I think someone was even trying to port a few Monster Hunter monsters, if I remember right.
What about new locations? So, for example, if somebody wants to inhabit a little island that you can see from, when you're in Volcanic Island, you can see a little island sort of floating in the sea. So, if somebody would want to inhabit it, make it explorable, would it be possible? Right now?
Right this second, I don't think so. I don't think anybody's made a collision tool yet. But because RE Framework is super moddable, I'm pretty sure if I asked someone or paid someone, they could make one.
Holy shit. Maybe I should pay somebody. Tell me who to pay. I'll pay.
I could probably ask in the Discord, I'm like, hey, does anybody know how to understand the collision file for RE framework? And I'd probably get like, yeah, I got it. Give me $50.
Shut up and take my money, please. No, I mean, seriously, just imagine, like, people are so desperate and jaded and frustrated that there's no DLC for Dragon's Dogma 2, and since re-engine, you said it's flexible, it could just, be the answer. We don't need your DLC anymore. We made our own DLC.
Yeah, and again, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly confident just because of all the stuff that I've seen.
You know what's the first, like, if I had a magic wand right now, the first thing I'd add into Dragon's Dogma 2 would be notice boards with more sophisticated, like, sort of contracts. I think it's just such a simple thing, and it's not very expensive, like, and time consuming and, resource consuming to add this little thing into the game to make it more replayable. It's crazy it's not there. Notice boards.
We're heading into the final segment of this video, the community questions, plus a silly little question blitz at the end. All the questions you're about to hear came from the Reddit post I made a while back, and I'll leave the link to it in the description if you want to check it out.
Let's check out the comments. Do you want to check out the comments?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's do that.
All right, so I will read them out to you, and then you can answer or not answer. It's up to you.
Okay.
So the first one is from Biggest Shep. Does he have an expected release date? We kind of answered that, but I still wanted to read it out.
So just like I said before, it completely depends on if I get the tools that I need. And of course, in every project, you come across roadblocks you don't expect, and so then you need another tool made. So it's really hard to place a release date.
All right, gotcha. The next one from We Must Fail Again. That's a great name. Will we really get to return to Lordran? It's a good one.
Hell yeah, we will! Does that answer your question?
I mean, Dark Souls 1 is not too big, I guess. It's not the biggest.
Yeah,
it doesn't have the biggest world, but still, it's massive, man.
Yeah, it's gonna take me some time.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, even exploring the Undead Burg as a Dragon's Dogma character, with like Dragon's Dogma characters' moves, would be already an incredible achievement, in my opinion.
I'm already doing it, trust me, it's super fun.
I have no doubts, and I can't wait to, experience it myself. The next one. This one's really good. Slight Ground 8597. Will this mod feature new visuals and an ENB? And will it be friendly to a, attention, RX7900XTX?
What?
You can just answer the first half of the question.
Besides, obviously new stages, it's not gonna include, like, new visuals in the sense of, like, higher res textures or ENB. I don't do ENBs. Project Dragonforged isn't about visuals. It's just about gameplay and new content.
Okay, that's a very fair and good answer. Another one. Is there going to be a difficulty tweak to make the game harder for those that have played it 1,000 times? I mean,
there's not a tweak, there's additions. Yeah. So, like, I'm not making everything hard across the board, like world difficulty, but you will find a random dragon I've inserted that's 10 times stronger and might kick your ass. So that's how I've kind of addressed very skilled / high level players. Is I've increased the ceiling of difficulty. There's more challenges for you to rise to meet. And there's a few of them that I've added in there that even at max level with a full party, it's like hard. So yeah, there's definitely that.
All right, cool. Next one. Swimming ad 3777. Was he able to make new monsters or new moves and attacks, or two already existing monsters? If not, does he think it's possible to do it in the future?
I haven't been able to make totally new monsters yet. The things that I've done, without trying to give away too much, I've either like hand selected some to be stronger or inserted new ones, and I do try to visually convey to the player that they are stronger. I'll often make them bigger, or I'll give them a recolor. I haven't been able to make totally new monsters, mostly reskins with improved stats. I do think that I will be able to do it in the future, but that's one of the most ambitious things.
All right, awesome. The next one is Into Free being added back to the main menu.
That was one of the first mods for the game. That already happened. It's not part of my project, but you can add it onto there if you want. It's compatible.
Yeah, I think it's compatible. All right, no questions, no further questions, no notes. This is a very good one. PSN, the original Max, is asking, he's promoting Patreon. Will this be a paid mod?
No, it's just optional support. All my mods are free. I have never charged for a mod.
And this brings us to this other thing I really wanted to highlight too in the video. You do have a Patreon, and I'd love to leave the link to your Patreon in the description as well for people who want to support you and your work with coin.
Yes, it's basically just a hey, do you want to support me? Because this takes a lot of work. And if I get to spend less time at work to work on this, because I have a little bit of money coming in, or I have extra money to, say, pay someone to make a tool, then that makes the Patreon helpful if I actually have revenue. So, yeah, that's what it's for.
Okay, so we'll leave a link to Austin's Patreon in the description, so you go check it out. It's 100% not necessary. The mod is not a paid mod. It will never be a paid mod, if I understand it correctly. But if you want to support financially, if you have an opportunity to do so, you should go check out that link. Thank you very much. Next question. This is a good one too. A tutorial for aspiring Arisen to use modding tools would be fire. Are there any guides out now? And how far have the tools gone? They got my boy the Arisen in goddamn Firelink Shrine too. No, seriously, it's a very good question. Will you be able to release any sort of tutorials once you're done with the project to share your knowledge? Yeah, absolutely. I fully plan to put out a tutorial. There's just a handful of reasons I haven't yet. First of all, it's a really lengthy process. It takes so much just to add one thing because there's all these moving parts, especially if you actually want the bells and whistles. Mm-hmm. And I want to finish parts of my project first before I'm worrying about putting out a tutorial, editing the video, answering a whole bunch of questions. Yeah, and if you guys really want, there actually are some tutorials out, and they're what I learned from to start this project. So if you type in NN Stan Dragon's Dogma, he's got a bunch of tutorials that he figured out. Project Dragonforged wouldn't exist without him. Because I saw him doing stuff, I was like, wait, you can do that? And that's who I learned from. We'll also add the links in the description. Maybe there'll be like a splash on the screen right now. So yeah, if you're interested, you can go check it out. Thank you very much. So the next one is, I'm actually very curious about this one as well. Will it feature new classes / vocations, animations, art, or weapons? Well, I mean, obviously, we know that there will be weapons, but they're also adding a desperate plea for polearms and halberds.
All right, here's everything I can say on that. I can add basically, people have already made new skills for the game by kind of interchanging them, and I have tried to make them their own skills, and this kind of ties into new vocations. I might be able to make new ones, and I can probably make new skills either when I get an animation tool or just by skill set swapping, which you can accomplish a lot with. Here's the problem. I do not know how to tell the game how to, basically how to let it know that you can equip it. I don't know how to go in and, when you go to change vocation, I don't know how to select new vocation or select new skill in the menu. So even if I could put it in the game, I have no idea how to tell the game to read it so that you can equip it. So that's where I'm kind of stuck. As for things like spears and polearms, I've had this idea because there's spears in the games, and through skill set swapping, I've actually compiled a good amount of things where you can do jabbing motions and little swipes. But again, I can't figure out how to put that in the game without replacing something, so you lose out on a whole vocation and or skill set from a weapon. So that's where I'm kind of stuck with that.
I see. Okay. Well,
additionally, you probably wouldn't be able to equip it on your pawn for online, otherwise they wouldn't have vocation. But that's a whole different can of worms. But yeah, that's my answer to that. Go ahead and continue. Sorry.
No. It's all right. So the next one, it's a pretty good question actually. Will this mod improve the romance system?
The only way I could think that it would, because it's not really one of the things that I was working on, The only way I could think that it might improve this romance system a little bit is if I do get to add custom NPCs. I was planning on adding a bunch of cut ones that you find in the art book, because there's like a ton of NPCs in the art book that didn't get added. And so I'd like to do that. But one of the problems is I never got the tool made. So here's another tool. If you guys want to see some cool shit in Dragon's Dogma, and you know someone that's making tool, someone decoded the NPC appearance files for me so I can open them up in XML, but it's incredibly tedious to adjust one value and see their cheekbone move 1 centimeter to the left. So, if someone could make a visual tool, like a character creator type tool, that can read those files, I could straight up open character creators for NPCs and make really, really good custom ones. And I guess, romance system might be a little improved if there's a bunch of custom ones. I mean, then we have the problem of adding dialogue and stuff like that. But
we can add new dialogue, by the way. If there's an option to do that, like technically, I know a guy who knows a guy who's a great voice actor.
I am like 90% sure it should be possible. And if it's not, I've solved many things I was told was impossible, so like, I'd figure it out.
Alright, quick shouty break. Since this video is not sponsored by anyone, I'm allowed to promote my friends without feeling dirty. And since Austin and I just talked about voice acting, I want to give a shout out to my wonderful friend Liam Gregory, an insanely talented aspiring voice actor. He's the one who made the opening for this video.
Hi, my name is Liam Paul Gregory, and I made the audio drama called Centromica Kokiri Log Jupiter, which was officially selected for the Aesthetica Short Film Festival in 2025. It's about a guy stuck on a space station recording audio logs. He's a lonely wanker. I also voiced a character in the award-winning folk horror audio series Partial Veil, as well as...
If you need a professional level voice actor, get in touch with him. I'll leave his contact in the description and the pinned comment. And just to be clear, I'm not getting paid for this, but I wish I was. Back to the video now.
Alright, cool. So, and the last question, it's the best one. Do you like cats or dogs?
I feel like most people, I love both, but I grew up with a bunch of German shepherds, so I lean towards dogs.
Right, so you're a dog person.
Just a touch. Question. I mean, I love cats.
I don't know if this person would be pleased because they have a cat on their profile picture, but I mean, it is what it is. Dogs, it is.
If it makes it feel any better, anytime I enter a room, the cats will not leave me alone. So
they are, Austin persons. What am I saying?
Yeah.
All right. that was embarrassing. Finally, you ready for the dumbest part of this interview?
Let's fucking go.
All right, so just pick one and give me no context. We should move super fast.
All right, let's do this.
Dark Arisen or Dragon's Dogma 2?
Dark Arisen.
Dragon's Dogma OG or Dragon's Dogma 2?
2 by a hair.
Capcom or From Software?
Oh, god damn it. Capcom.
Fest or Ballsack?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Fest or Ballsack?
Ballsack.
Hell yeah, oh my man. Team Ballsack right here. Pizza or ramen?
Pizza.
Shit, seriously. Worst game you love?
Dark Souls 2? I'm sorry.
Hey, Dark Souls 2, Team Dark Souls 2. Playing or modding?
Playing.
Capcom is listening, yes or no?
They have to be. At least a little.
I personally think they are lurking. Maybe not all of them, maybe not the higher-ups, but I think some Capcom employees do know about it. Maybe even talk about it.
Yeah.
In the pantry. Anyways, my last question is very difficult. What's your least favorite boss in any game?
People are gonna laugh at me, but it's partially because I went in super underleveled. In Elden Ring, the boss that I struggled with the most was Moog.
I mean, people might laugh. Some people, sweaty under boob players might laugh. But I think Moog is a pretty tough nut to crack. Thank you again. Thank you very much for joining me today. Do you have anything to say to the community? Like the last thing you want to say to the community in this video?
I hope you guys look forward to new content. And again, if you guys know programmers or people that make tools or understand code or how to look at decompiled versions of stuff, just like people who are computer savvy on a more technical level, that would be great if they could be sent my way. That I really need that to make things come true, because like at the rate my buddies are able to get back to me, this is going to take years. Have a good one, man.
Bye-bye. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for watching or listening to the whole thing. Making this video taught me a lot and it pushed me hard, but in the best way possible. And I'm proud how it turned out. I'm just getting started though. I already have more interviews in the pipeline and each new one is going to get sharper as I figure out my style and refine the process. This is the direction I want to push this channel, giving the spotlight to the people who work tirelessly to make the gaming community better. Videos like this take a ton of time and mental energy, so between these big projects I'll still be doing my usual silly stuff like rants, reviews, and the 4 Games That series. If you're new here, that series is basically me picking a weird theme and breaking down 4 games that fit it. 4 games that terrified me, 4 games I'll never play again, stuff like that. Fast edits, dumb jokes, zero professionalism. So if you want something lighter after this long-ass interview, feel free to check those out. I like to think of them as like little projects that show the chaotic and comedic side of what I do. Thanks again for being here, and Austin, thank you very much for trusting me, even though I'm a guy with a dickhead on his t-shirt. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Our voices sound like wet cement and cans, but it's still a pleasant way to spend an evening if you're a Dragon's Dogma fans.